All right. Well, welcome to everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us this afternoon. We've got a really fantastic presentation lined up for you today. I'm really excited to be welcoming Jamie and Shandrea to our conversation. I'd like to offer a few housekeeping items before offering a land acknowledgement. So we're really excited to have lots of people joining us today. And what I'm going to request is that everyone keep their videos off and their microphones muted just for the duration of Jamie and Shandrea's presentation so that we're able to focus our attention on them. And then we'll make sure that we have 15 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions. And at that point in time, I'd invite you to turn your cameras on so they can see your faces. And we'll be collecting questions throughout the presentation as well. I'm joining you today from the College of Medicine's main campus in Saskatoon. As we gather here today, we acknowledge that we're on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. Like many of you, my life has been enriched and sustained by the care and stewardship of these lands by Indigenous people. I've also learned a lot about relationality and the ways that we look out for one another. The DSA undertakes its work from an intersectional lens, which considers the relationship between power and varying forms of oppression. It's really important that we understand that disability is largely relational, which means that it's dependent on the context that a person finds themselves in. And we know that barriers to inclusion are often socially constructed and can be tied to some of those colonial beliefs that assign different values to people with different lived experiences. It's critical that we're able to unpack those hierarchies to ensure that we all have the necessary environments to lead happy and healthy lives. For anyone who's not familiar, the Division of Social Accountability is a division of the College of Medicine dedicated to health equity, anti-racist education, community-based research, advocacy, authentic partnerships, and the health needs of underserved and marginalized communities. And I actually made the mistake of forgetting to introduce myself last time. My name is Natalia Mason. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the community engagement specialist for the Division of Social Accountability. So I get to work with community to help ensure that their concerns and needs are appreciated and kind of understood by the College of Medicine in the work that we do. And it's actually through that role that I was able to first meet Jamie. So really happy to be here with you all today. If you have any questions, you can also feel free to message me in the chat. The Division of Social Accountability engages and learns from our communities to support relevant, meaningful, and impactful health education, health professional education, research, service, and advocacy. This year, it's our intention to focus on different topics each month, each related to the health equity needs of our community. This month, we center our conversation around disability and inclusion, which is actually really timely as October has been designated Inclusion Month in Saskatchewan. It's also Disability Employment Awareness Month and Learning Disabilities Month. So really fantastic time to be having this conversation. For our presentation today, we are being joined by two incredible disability advocates. Jamie Ellis is very active in the community and is a member of a number of different community groups. Jamie's a member of ICANN through Inclusion Saskatchewan and has contributed to tremendous amounts of work, including the supported decision-making resources. Shandrea Verboom has been with Inclusion Saskatchewan for over 5 years and is passionate about advocating for the rights of people with disabilities. Shandrea and Jamie are both on the Medical Decision-Making Committee and work together along with other committee members to create resources that allow people with disabilities to be involved with their medical decision-making. And I will hand it over to the two of you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. So, Jamie, did you have anything else to add about yourself before we start sharing the presentation here?
Well, I have cerebral palsy. I was a prematurely born child. And was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at 18 months. And within the past 5 years, I have developed neuropathy. So it has got me to the point now where anything that has to be done for me, I need total care.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for highlighting that. I think that lends nicely into what we'll be talking about today in terms of how to effectively understand and support people with disabilities in the way that they choose. Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Okay, well, I will go ahead and share the presentation here. Just gonna start the slideshow, and I just want to double check, Natalia, Jamie, everything can be seen on your end. We're good.
Yeah.
You've got like the presentation mode. So it's not full screen, but if you've got notes on the side, we'll be able to see those.
I don't have notes on this slide, but how do I change that?
Try display settings in the top middle there. Yeah, click swap presenter view and slideshow.
Oh, there we go. Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so we will just hop right in here. I think Natalia gave us a great introduction. I want to acknowledge that we had a number of ICANN members contribute to our resources, which include medical decision-making, as well as the release of our new supported decision-making resources, which kind of go hand in hand. Understanding supported decision-making lends nicely to medical decision-making. So we had a wonderful group of committee members working alongside of us on these resources, volunteering a ton of their time to lend their voice, their lived experience. And we've got the lovely Jamie photoed there. So yes, Jamie was incredibly active at every step of the way, and we really appreciate all of your contributions, Jamie.
Thanks.
We have, when we released our supported decision-making resources, we had a ton of fun with this meme campaign. Hey, Jamie, so you star in this one. You star in a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one, it's just easier to make decisions for you. We know what's best for you. And Jamie is there saying, maybe not. The self-advocacy movement is all about equality, dignity, and right to services. And having the supports that you need available to you, and ultimately having the system pivot to allow people's needs to be met rather than asking people to pivot to meet the system's needs. Okay. So Jamie, how do you prefer to be supported as you make decisions?
Well, I like to try and make my own decisions and then go to the correct people, such as you, Shandrea, to find out where I need the extra help.
Okay, so you'll make decisions as you feel comfortable, but if you feel like you'd like a bit more information, you'll reach out to your supporters and ask for more information.
Right.
And then will you make the final decision?
Yeah.
Perfect, thanks. Okay, so when the pandemic started, we recognized that there were things happening that would disproportionately impact people with disabilities. And we wanted to be able to create resources that would include the fact that Individuals might have to go into the hospital independently and not have that supporter there with them to help advocate and explain to the healthcare team what their needs are. And so what could we create? So I'll get more into the health passport in a bit here, but wanted to start off with this resource is actually a very much person-led resource. Something cool about all of our medical decision-making resources and supported decision-making resources is that they're all for the individual, except for a couple, it'll state for supporters. So we have 3 health resources and 5, I think, actually, supported decision-making resources, and then 1 each for supporters. And something that we heard from our self-advocates was there's so much out there for supporters, there's so little for us. And so we were really intentional about creating resources for individuals themselves in plain language. These can also be used as templates. So however somebody learns best, you would, the supporters would come together and tweak these as necessary, but they give a good template and starting base. So this is My Health, How to Support My Decision Making. It goes through a number of different questions, and people can fill it out based on whether they feel they're comfortable making decisions. So as Jamie indicated, there might be some where he would just check mark, yep, I'm good. There might be aspects of things where he'd like the plus sign. He'd like to say, I'm good here in some ways, but in other ways, I'd like more information. And then an exclamation point is that you feel like you need support with that fully, and you'll be reaching out to your supporters that you feel are most appropriate. So, Jamie, did you have anything you wanted to add about My Health?
Well, I'm perfectly healthy now, but, by developing this document, it made me kind of think about what to look out for, and it makes the healthcare providers know what we want, since it was written by us.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that, if I was to fill this out and say, this is how I feel about this, it wouldn't be up to Jamie to say, oh no, Shandrea, I think that you actually fit elsewhere. It would be up to the person that's filling it out to determine how they feel they fit within, right? It's very much led by the individual. And like Jamie indicated, it's neat because it might spark conversations around things that you really didn't know even existed or that were an option, or so even things around consent. Okay, well, what is that? And it can allow for some of those additional conversations to be had that people with intellectual disabilities haven't always had the opportunity to be a part of or to be at the forefront of for themselves.
Yeah.
Here's another Jamie meme. And this is probably my favorite, when you ask someone else a question about me in front of me and his face is just perfect for that. Jamie, did we have fun making these memes?
We did.
Is there anything that you'd like to add about that process?
Well, when we started making these up, and I was trying to, I had these statements thrown at me, and I was trying to figure out how on earth I was going to be able to answer this. And the longer I was looking at it, the madder I got down inside me. And it kind of made me, think, okay, there I am. I'm the person that has to speak.
And then that emotion just kind of came through in your face for the camera. So it was
Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask you, Jamie, why is it important to let others know about your wishes for your medical or health care?
Well, it is important to let everyone know because I would rather try to make my own decisions and make sure I was making the right ones rather than be confronted by any medical personnel that would say to me, wow, you have to do this.
Right, so being a bit proactive with your supporters as well to sort through what you,
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, we're going to hop into the health passport. So Jamie, this is the one that people can take with them to the hospital to help the healthcare team to gain a quick snapshot of what that person's needs are. Why do you feel this document in particular is important?
Well, it's a very important document, and it's another thing that our team spent a lot of work on, because there again, it's something that we can show medical staff anytime we have to, so that we can show them that we're capable of making our own decisions.
Right. This one was created right when the pandemic hit. We all huddled together and we had a conversation about, what sorts of things do people with disabilities need right now in terms of meeting their needs if they have to go into the hospital? What could be helpful for them and to assist with that process? So we wanted to create something very quick that the healthcare team in an emergency situation, not 10 pages, it's a max of 4 pages, the first couple being the most important of in terms of a quick snapshot, and then the next couple would be like if that person was to end up staying there overnight or something, some of their additional care needs. We have had incredible feedback about this resource from healthcare staff saying it's so helpful for them to gain that really quick understanding of the individual. So it translated really well for the pandemic, but also following that and restrictions being lifted and maybe individuals can still have supporters, but still having this housed somewhere that the individual can either bring with them or have on their phone, anything that works for them, and being able to share it with the healthcare team has been incredibly useful. What you're looking at right now is the portion that walks through how to fill the document out. So the little perforated edges segment are the questions that are in the document itself. So this would make sense when you're looking at the document, which you can find them all on our website. And we'll have that listed for you at the end of our presentation. It shows you how to fill the document out in plain language, and then what you would take with you is that filled out portion to the hospital. And like I said, it's a max of 4 pages. So things like, I might get upset by really bright lights or loud noises, or I don't like when doctors or nurses talk too fast, or when they talk to somebody else rather than me. I'd like them to talk to me. If I am upset, how can you make me feel better, right? It's been an incredibly useful document for many people. Jamie, sorry, anything to add there before we move along to my healthcare wishes?
Well, it's just very true. Like, you know, you have to I hope that by doing this that we've made things easier for hospital people, and I just hope that it will create better communication.
Leading to a more person-centered experience, a more positive experience for the individual themselves, hey?
Yeah.
Awesome. So my healthcare wishes is our most recent resource, and we're quite proud of it. When we started digging into the research, we looked internationally, and I'm sure it won't be a surprise to most, if not all of you, that the research on including people with intellectual disabilities in their own care is very limited on an international level. If anybody is interested, on our medical decision-making resources page, there is medical decision-making for supporters, which breaks down all of the research and why we took this document in the direction that we did. And so ultimately, this is a document that breaks down a person's healthcare wishes, explains somebody's rights, how consent works, how things should function when somebody goes into the hospital, and processes that people can take if those aren't followed. So we did this document in 2 parts as well, similar to the health passport. So part 1 is the workbook, and then part 2 is my healthcare wishes itself, which can go, again, be separated and can go to the hospital with the individual. What we have seen as somewhat problematic is that when people go into the hospital, when they're receiving any sort of surgery or intervention in some way, they're given a healthcare directive to fill out again, and that has been quite problematic for the population of folks that we support. And we have quotes from individuals that worked on this with us, and the one beautiful quote from Charlene, is around how she went into hospital, was given a healthcare directive, and just didn't fill it out. She didn't have the support. She had no idea what it all meant, and ended up just having her surgery without anything in place. And so while this isn't an SHA document, it is something that supporters can know how, what the individual would like to receive in terms of their care, anything that they don't want to receive. Yeah, so we'll go a little bit more into the document here. Jamie, is there anything that you'd like to add at this point?
Well, I'm just hoping that for any people who see it, that they'll be putting it to good use. And, there again, I'm saying, please let us know how you feel about it as well.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. You bring up a great point that we will be releasing a survey, most likely in the new year, based on our current pace. Hey, Jamie, things never happen as quickly as we'd like them to. Our goal was fall, but it's actually okay because it allows more people to get familiar with the resource and maybe even have the opportunity to use it. So we will be releasing a survey so that people can give us their feedback on it. So whether people are an individual themselves or a supporter or healthcare professionals, whomever, we want feedback on it and to see, what people think of it and its effectiveness. Interestingly enough, we did survey My Health, How to Support My Decision Making, that first resource. And we did get some interesting feedback back, including lots of supporters themselves felt that the individuals were directly involved in their care and that they were including them, but the individuals themselves weren't feeling that way, weren't feeling directly involved. So it does just go to show that supported decision-making process being so key in terms of understanding how does an individual want to be involved, what is meaningful for them, allowing them to lead the process rather than supporters thinking that they know best for the person. So, okay, so we wanted to create a flow chart that should break down, what happens when you go to the hospital, depending on whether you have a personal guardian or you've designated a proxy or you have a healthcare directive in place. So essentially just allowing people to know how that process should function, because unfortunately, at times we've seen it function quite a bit different. There are times where healthcare practitioners really do want that consent at times from someone else, and whether or not that person is appropriate to give consent for their care or not. So this just allows everybody to be on the same page as to how that process should function. So then I communicate by and with. This one is huge. I presented at our parents workshop last week for family members, and the family members were talking about how when their loved ones don't speak using words, when they don't communicate using words, that they are often diminished or seen as less intelligent, or all of those sorts of stigmas attached. And so by having something like I communicate by or with, it really challenges those stigmas to say, everybody communicates in some ways, but here, so here are the ways that this person can effectively communicate with you. Or I may not communicate in a way that you understand, but this person does understand me, so please contact them. Jamie, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, not really.
Okay, I can just ramble on, so stop me at any point, okay? So we also added in a worksheet around cultural considerations as well, if people have considerations that they would like to be included in terms of their care. This is what I call the meat and potatoes of the document, kind of the main course of the document that breaks down a person's wishes. So we recommend going through everything in order if that works best for the individual, obviously, but that's intentional because it kind of starts off being very values-based, which actually, from what we've heard from healthcare teams, tells them a lot about the type of care a person would like to receive. So I view that as incredibly important as well. This portion of the document extends into what we found in our research was that if people, people with disabilities can oftentimes understand things in the way that if you were to say, what are your current care needs? If that changes, are you okay with that? And if they are or aren't okay, that's how you proceed with filling the document out. Jamie, do you have anything to add there about this portion of it?
Well, in the part where it says, do you have trouble sleeping, which I'm currently reading, I just have to state that for me, I have to use CPAP due to having sleep apnea.
Exactly. So that's your current care need, is you use a CPAP machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then your supporters would work through, you know, if any of those needs changed. What if maybe sleep became really difficult for you and you weren't sleeping? Is that okay? Is that something that you're okay to live with? So these aren't necessarily easy conversations or easy topics and should be done at the pace of the individual. But they
Yeah,
are important to understand where people stand. Hey, Jamie?
that's for sure.
Okay, then we've got our friend Aiden here, and this is another of my favorites. You don't need to protect me by making difficult decisions for me rather than with me. I'm stronger than you think. In this sector, we hear that all the time. We want to protect people. We want to keep them safe. But ultimately, people have a right to their decision making. That's within our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's within a lot of our legislation. People have rights. People have the right to make decisions. And even when somebody has a personal guardian, I like to point out that it's still a responsibility of that personal guardian to uphold the wishes of the individual to the best of their abilities. So, you know, working with people, allowing them to presenting information in the way that works best for them, all of those things are really important. Jamie, why do you feel this last document, My Healthcare Wishes, that the most recent one that we worked on, why do you feel this one is important?
Well, it's important. It's very important because, you know, you have to make sure that, sure, we're giving it to the healthcare providers, but then again, on the other hand, you have to make sure that they know what it's all about and why we did it. And, you know, it's just it's very important. And I think that it's important from the two sides, like for us and for the people wanting to aid in us, because they have to learn more about it.
You're so right, Jamie. There's nothing that excites me
more about us.
Learn more about you yourself as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I thought you were done. I was just going to say there's nothing that excites me more than hearing from a healthcare provider that they'd like to learn more. And then I just say, here's all of our resources, right? We've created them all. They're here. Just take a little bit of time and look through, you know, why we created this. It's all there. So, you know, we've tried to make it pretty simple for people in terms of understanding its importance. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just wanted to highlight again, like I said, there's one document for My Healthcare Wishes for supporters, and then there's one document for supported decision-making for supporters. And I just wanted to highlight this document here so that you all know it exists as well. It's again where our research is housed, but I think, you know, it highlights a lot of the things that I talked about today. Taking responsibility for your supportive role, being proactive, supporting people in the ways that work best for them, all of those things. Jamie, what do you hope, you've kind of answered this in some ways, but anything else that you want to add? What do you hope people will learn from these resources?
Well, just that people will, I hope, as time goes on, that they'll get to learn more about us. And I don't really know, like I'm hoping that if we all get the chance to meet face to face someday, that we're going to be able to show these people how important we are to them and how important our organization is to them.
Right. Yes, thank you, Jamie. Okay, so like I said, our website specifically geared towards all of our medical decision-making resources is right there. And Jamie, just anything else that you'd like to add before I stop sharing and we go over to questions?
No, go ahead.
You're good? Okay. All right. I will stop sharing here. Okay. And then, oh, good. Natalia's there. We can see if anybody has questions now.
I just want to say thank you so much to the both of you for sharing those resources. I think that they're just honestly really innovative, so applicable and valuable for people living with disabilities. And I think that for, you know, many people who struggle in healthcare settings, being able to like advocate for what they need and want, that's like a really fantastic example for the way that healthcare providers can look out for the needs of their clients and of their patients. And one of the things that I think is so fantastic about disability activism is that there is always so much innovation and finding a way to deal with the barriers that are out there, because we just become so complacent about them sometimes. And we think, you know, like this has always been done this way, and so that's how it needs to continue. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that doesn't meet people's needs. So it's really fantastic to see these instances of innovation and creativity that really help to look out for people. So I am wondering if anyone that has joined us today has any questions that they would like to ask of Jamie and Shandrea. And feel free to pop your cameras back on if you would like, and you're not in your PJs. I have a couple of questions while we wait to see if there's anybody else with a question, but pop your, feel free to maybe like put up your hand if you do have a question. What do you think, maybe I'll start with you, Jamie, is the most important lesson that you've learned in doing all of this work?
Well, it became a real lesson for me because I didn't really know what was out there to be discussed. And boy, when I found out that we had a lot to discuss, I learned.
And I think that the resources are so comprehensive, which is really fantastic. Like there's spaces in there for people to talk about their pronouns, the piece around like cultural beliefs. I think that that's so incredible. So you've all been really thoughtful in the way that you've constructed that. Dr. Martino, go ahead. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
And the thing was, I kind of grew up almost doing this kind of work because when I was 15, I was the president of my United Church High C group. And so I learned a lot then, you know, knowing that I had to speak out and speak to other people. And then when I was 18, along came 1973, and Voice of the Handicap was born, which is now Sask Voice of People with Disabilities. But I was part of their executive for a while too, and I again learned how to speak.
Well, we're honestly so grateful for that. You're such an incredible advocate, and you also just like have so much experience in so many different projects. Before everyone else joined us on the call, we were talking about Jamie and Shandrea doing some advocacy with some MLAs around transportation and housing and some other topics as well. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, Alan, go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much. What a fantastic resource. And I'm so amazed with the work that is coming out of Saskatchewan. So impressive. I think in Alberta here, we need to take some notes. So thank you. I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about times of COVID, right? There was so much new information, uncertainty, trying to follow new technologies, navigating vaccination. That was a big issue for some folks. Do you think that some of the information in this guide can help in times like this with pandemic of such quick information and people making decisions like this?
Oh, I definitely think so now that it's, I have to say, we hope it's coming to an end, because I came down with the COVID when it first started, before I found out that we could get any vaccines. And since then, I've just been getting needle after needle.
And that's a good example, Jamie, during to answer your question in regards to like all of the information out there. It was confusing for all of us, and trying to choose what to do and what felt right, and all like changing on a daily basis. So we created a document called I have decided to get, or maybe it was deciding to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And it went through all of the different options to consider, and that individuals could ultimately work through with their supporters. And thank you for saying that, this is exciting to come out of Saskatchewan. We're pretty proud of it on like an international level. It's getting some recognition. It's pretty exciting to be at the forefront. And I also just wanted to acknowledge Natalia's question in regards to what we learned. I think I have always seen how important it is to include people with disabilities in their own lives. I think in terms of this document creation, it has just like blown my mind how much we have been making mistakes in the past with not including people with disabilities with lived experience directly in the creation of documents. Because I just said it recently when I presented last week as well, these documents would not be half of what they are without that lived experience, without people like Jamie, as you heard all of his past experiences and things, him being able to be open with those and share those have really led and guided a lot of this work for us. So yeah, that's incredibly important, and a note for all of us to take, that including people directly is so crucial.
Thanks so much, Shandrea. Go ahead, Carlin.
Hi, thank you so much. It's really nice to see you both again. I'm so glad you could join us for this really important chat. I have a question around, yes, these are super impactful tools for people living with disabilities. How do we get this into the consciousness of our medical trainees, not just, undergraduate medical students, but, physio students, nursing students, other health science students, because I see that this kind of tool would be so valuable in so many health decision-making arenas. Do we have a way to work with, training institutions to get some of these, not even just the tool, but the principles of what decision-making looks like for people? Because I think that we wouldn't need a tool like this if this was core to how our, medical practitioners are trained.
Yes, please help us more with that. Please share the word.
I'm almost asking question, Carolyn. My question is, what can we do?
Well, so we have our lead researcher, Dr. Ellis Matthews, is a nursing teacher. What is her title, Jamie? I can't remember right now, but anyway, she's brilliant. She's our lead researcher, and she actually set up in the new year for the self-advocates to present on this to all of her nursing students. And so just more of that. We've also had conversations at the government level. Fortunately, our Minister of Health has seen this document and really loves it. So we are trying to kind of move things along in that way as well. We've had SHA look over it to review that it's all, you know, we're not sending out any misinformation or anything like that, as per policies and everything on their end, that it's correct. So we've really tried to kind of cover all of the areas. And yeah, you're right, Carolyn, it's just a matter of how can we continue kind of breaking ground and getting this out there on a larger scale.
One thing I want to say too, and it was interesting that you brought this point up, Carolyn. When I was 14 going on 15, my legs were operated on because when I stood up, my legs had nothing but a perpetual bend in them. So after all the surgery, I had been in cast, like this was my whole summer of 1969. I had been in cast right from my ankles up to my hips with a great huge iron bar between my legs. And so I couldn't even like sit in a proper type of wheelchair. We borrowed a collapsible wheelchair, which I found very uncomfortable. And so I ended up just using a Chesterfield chair in the house to sit in with a big footstool. And for me to get from point A to point B in the house, we had to make sure, like I always had to make sure that I had friends around that we could call to come over and help Mom, because it took two of them like to carry me. Like if I was going from the living room to my bed or my bed to the living room. So it was not the easiest. And I mean, the poor guy that I like, I couldn't even put on underwear. Like, Mom had to put dome fastenings in all my underwear because I was the only person in Regina, and I'm sure the only person in Saskatchewan that was putting his pants on over his head.
Yeah, I think that highlights, Jamie, you know, not always understanding the level of support that is needed following care. And you know, once again, how our healthcare system is very much within the hospital, within the healthcare facilities, but then there's that whole other aspect of supporting people once they leave the hospital. And that's something that we're seeing in our province right now as well, is housing crises for people with intellectual disabilities, with medical needs, having the healthcare system kind of pivot to support them in community because hospital is not the appropriate place. But it's a huge barrier to kind of make that ideology shift within our province. So something else that we're kind of trying to chip away at.
Yeah.
And just such another good example of how, you know, people living with disabilities and people who help support them are innovative and help to, like, you know, find solutions to problems that other people haven't even considered. So kudos to your mom for figuring that one out. Again, I just want to thank you both so much for making the time to join us today. It's been such a valuable conversation, and I hope that everyone really does take advantage of these resources and find whatever avenues you have to share them and circulate them throughout the community. We're also lucky to have a friend and colleague, Dr. Alan Martino, with us today. Alan's a disability scholar from Alberta, and I actually just saw that he posted earlier today about a critical disability speaker series that they have coming up. So I'm just going to give him a second to share some of those presentations because they sound really fantastic, and I think people might be interested.
No, thank you. And folks are definitely welcome to share. We have two speakers actually coming and speaking via Zoom. One of the presentations is around inequality and disability, and another one about COVID-19 and sharing some results from a quantitative study from the US that shows that disproportionately people labeled with intellectual disabilities are being affected by this, and in what ways. So I'll put the links on the chat box and feel free to join us. Thank you.
What is that, Alan?
Sorry?
What is that?
Yeah, so there'll be two presentations, one next Monday, and this is a professor from here in Alberta, and she's going to talk about disability and inequality, and it's via Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I put the links on the chat box, so if you're more interested, Jamie, feel free to join us, okay?
Okay, I sure will.
Thanks so much. Carly, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question. So as a parent of someone who we're just kind of learning about his disability, I'd love to just hear, I'm very new to it, but kind of at this stage, I'm very much the supporter and kind of, you know, to a 1-year-old making lots of decisions and lots of calls and lots of advocacy. But kind of as time goes on, I'd love to know if there's resources for kids that kind of do some of the same thing, or if it's just a matter of working together to fill out some of these type of resources. And I'm sure maybe there's already great stuff for kids, but I'd just be curious how to kind of, for a supporter or a person who's caring for someone to share that and what that might look like, you know, through kind of a childhood to adolescent type time.
That's something we talked about, isn't it, Jamie? Is how can we translate this into supporting a younger population as well, hey?
What I was going to suggest to you, Shandrea, I was also thinking that maybe you could help me explain to Carly, like, how she could get in touch with our Inclusion Family Network.
Well, for sure, that's definitely an option. So if you go on to our website, inclusionsk.com, there's a drop-down tab under our work that is all about the family network. And so that's definitely, Jamie is right. That's something I was going to suggest as well. So thank you for that, Jamie. You're on the ball as always. That's a great space to kind of share. You know, there's a ton of very innovative families out there who are kind of shifting the way that we've done things in the past and really challenging that narrative right now. It's pretty exciting to be a part of and just see the overall shift towards an acceptance of supported decision making. So I would say that while going through the supported decision making and medical decision making resources may lend in, ideas and ways to present the information for younger children, I also think that families will be a good resource for you as well, until maybe we can take our ideas to real life and try to shift something for a younger population over time. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. It's kind of like we don't have the best options right now, but we do have some other great families connected with us.
Well, we've just got 1 minute left, so I'll wrap things up. And again, just thanks to everyone for taking the time to join us today. If you've enjoyed today's webinar, I'd encourage you to stay connected with the division. You can sign up for our monthly newsletter or follow us on social media. I'm going to pop a link in the chat here, which will give you links to things like our book club, our webinar, and also to sign up to our newsletter. We usually do a monthly book club, but this month we're switching things up and doing a movie club. So we're going to be having a discussion on September 27th about the documentary Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution, which is about a group of campers who meet at a summer camp for young people with disabilities and go on to revolutionize the world, making really critical contributions to disability rights globally, and eventually also going on to champion the American Disabilities Act. So if you are a staff member, faculty, or student in the College of Medicine, then you are welcome to join us for that movie club on September 27th. If you're not, I definitely still encourage you to watch the movie. It does have adult themes, but it's a really fantastic story. Following today's webinar, you'll also be receiving a survey. So take a minute to fill that out. It helps us to determine areas of interest for our future work and also to just gauge the work that we're doing. And thanks again to everyone for joining us today.
And I hope that if you were able to notice my information or my email address, etc. Like, I would like everybody to please try and stay in touch with me, please.
You are always so generous of that, Jamie. So yeah, absolutely. If anyone's wanting to get in touch with Jamie, just shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat here, and I can connect you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and also your weekend.
Okay.
Thanks again for having us. Take care, everyone.